What's the power of a college degree? We've put so much value on it over the past half a century. College grads use it to express their credibility. Employers see it as a rite of passage that signals skill and accomplishment. Yet today, recent graduates in America face record high unemployment. They carry $1 trillion in debt. That degree no longer guarantees middle-class success, and employers question whether they're getting the quality they need. Suddenly, there are new ways to learn, from free online courses to immersive classroom technology to startups that teach you just the skills you need. How do we need to learn in this new age? What are we willing to pay for? And what are the essential skills of a 21st century workforce, especially here in the Pacific Northwest? We'll explore these questions and more with 4 creative leaders who are hacking EDU. I'm Hanson Hossein. Welcome to 4 Peaks, live from HuskyFest at the University of Washington. The state of Washington ranks second in the country for innovation and entrepreneurship. Sounds great, right? But it's near the bottom at 46 for participation in science and engineering graduate programs. Our inability to provide a workforce to meet our economic needs has inspired regional leaders to promote education in STEM. That's short for science, technology, engineering, and math. Ruby Love has been at the forefront of this nexus between industry and education for decades. Ruby, you're now the Chief Development Officer for Washington STEM. What explains this incredible discrepancy between what we're doing as an economic engine and what we're providing to drive that engine from a student point of view?
Well, I think we've spent actually decades ignoring a pipeline that essentially has hundreds of leaks in it. And those leaks actually begin at the early learning stage, where when children are born, and what is taught in terms of preschool settings and in-home settings. And then it proceeds on right straight through high school. And so when a student seeks to come to an institution like this, many situations they're unprepared to go into the persisting classes that would have them come out on the other end fluent in STEM careers.
So what's industry here in the Pacific Northwest largely looking for from that point of view?
Well, they're looking for a ready workforce, people who are proficient in science, proficient in technology and engineering and math, and they're looking for people who don't necessarily always have to have those degrees, but they have to have the knowledge and the background that you and I take for granted in how we work every day in terms of doing the work that we're doing. So just putting this program on today, think about the technology that's behind all that's operating to make us look good on this stage.
And you look great.
Thank you. But really, there are something like 70% of all of the jobs in North America require a level of fluency in STEM that is today. And then when we get to like the year 2018, there will be 1 million jobs that just have STEM career titles that will need to be filled. And our pipeline is not producing that at all.
So how do we address this? How do we fill the pipeline?
Well, I think a couple of things. The prior speaker, we have to remove the stigma that is attached to STEM fields and STEM literacy. So right now, it's viewed as an elitist area. There's a title that's called geek that goes with it. And what we want to do is we want to actually flatten that so that young people, as well as people of all ages, see that there's a possibility for them to achieve and succeed in those fields and in those areas, and that I think also that industry and business has to play a role with education, as opposed to in prior years, I think there's been a lot of finger pointing.
And that some of that finger pointing goes to maybe the kind of funding that we get for the K-12 education system, or even for higher education, that if we're not providing a sufficient tax base to provide that STEM education, then we can't get the employees that we need. So when industry is looking to create this pool of graduates, do they also say, oh, we need to actually pony up more money to fund it as well?
I think it's not only ponying up money. So what we're finding out is that the other thing that really helps students is experience. And so what I love about the folded piece that was just on is that these are people that did not have necessarily STEM backgrounds, but they are actually practicing math. They're practicing physics in the technology that they use to solve a problem. Students need that same kind of experience. Schools and teachers need the money behind the work so that they're able to have the instructional materials, they're able to transport kids to experiences like that, but it's more than money.
Given that it's more than money, we still need the resources to provide that kind of curriculum. We're seeing a lot of these courses online for free. Now, MIT has OpenCourseWare. Stanford University offered a course in robotics that had 160,000 people sign up for, and it was for free. Does that provide some kind of solution to sort of filling that pipeline as well?
I think there's many solutions. I want, and I think you want, your children to have a menu of opportunities to choose from. I do feel that there are still going to be students that need a campus life. They need to come, they need to live on campus, they need to have, be exposed in a classroom setting where they can have open discussion and teachers act as coaches. I think that some students are able to learn in an online setting and they check in with, I heard the word connoisseur mentors. I think that's an excellent strategy. And then I think there are other students that want to be in the field and all of their learning is field learning. So the big thing in STEM is not saying that there's a single lane that people go down to become successful. We have to be willing to fund and to innovate in many different ways.
When we look at the capacity of higher education as an infrastructure here in this region, in terms of what industry wants, is it sufficient? When we hear about a university from Massachusetts, like Northeastern, coming here to set up a campus so they can educate more engineers, what does that say about us? What else do we need to be doing to provide that kind of infrastructure?
What I think it says a couple of things. I think it says that there are inequities in terms of who's admitted. There are inequities in terms of who is supported to be retained in college or in higher education. And there are inequities in terms of the diversity of degrees and programs that are offered. And so that allows for a Northeastern to come here, and it allows actually for a University of Washington to go someplace else. So I think that we have to get over our turf war situations. I think we have to understand that the inequities will continue if we do not open our thinking and our ways. The statistics say that 78% of young people in the country are people of color and indigenous populations, 78% today in high school. So what does that mean for who's going to be admitted into our various institutions? It means that we're going to have to change how we operate and how we do our admissions and who we view as our ideal student.
And so there is an equality issue, there's a cost issue, obviously, for admitting those kinds of students. President Obama mentioned something like that at the State of the Union address, where he basically said that universities have to address their costs. You look at universities like the University of Washington, they're as lean as they can be, and when state funding is also going down, they have no choice but to put up tuition. So how do we deal with that accessibility issue when we don't have much wiggle room when it comes to tuition?
Well, I think we talked about a couple of examples. So we talked about accessibility coming through free classroom settings, through professors who are world-renowned and their presentations are shown publicly and there's great access that way. I think also that community and technical colleges play a role. And many times the 4-year and 6-year and 8-year degree will no longer be needed. There can be a shorter learning curve. And also, and this is a whole nother presentation, but the styles of learning that our brains are able to function under have not been explored at all. And I think that is yet another area that we can show proficiency for STEM.
That's a great way to look towards the future. So when we return from STEM to STEAM, how we need to write in an A for art in any reimagination of the classroom.